Bon dia, hello everyone. Welcome to another Fireside Chat brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. Eimear here, and this is our 110th chat. And so good morning, good afternoon, good day, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. So first, like I usually do, I will start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon of Fudna Krinya, Gamara Shiakon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Gunari Lin and Arkij Garmaka, Gamwich Buikas Jeff, Jeh Chivdaka, is Spirit Quivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see, through our fear of each other, a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten unto plowshares, and no hurt or harm done anywhere along the holy mountain. With thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you're all from this evening. Hello from Holland, hello from Ulster. Welcome back, Pat. West Cornwall, lovely. South Wales. Vienna, Austria, lovely. West Yorkshire, still have a bit of daylight. It's lovely. I'm so glad that the clocks have changed back. I like longer evenings, and we're able to say that there's a stretch in the evening. Hello from Washington, wonderful. Wyoming, that's lovely. Where else? Denmark, great. And New Forest, I was there recently at the Druid Gorset. It was absolutely magical. Oh, on a very snowy, cold night in Finland, ouch. And cloudy Norfolk Island in Australia, wonderful. Northamptonshire, Montana, Norway, Hertfordshire, Prince Edward Island in Canada. Well, you're all very, very welcome. Cumbria, Lower Michigan, Suffolk, Crouch End, lovely to see you all. New York, Wales. Oh, Barry, okay. Anyway, we are going to the UK this evening, and I'd like to introduce Andrew Anderson. Andrew, where are you?
Hello. I'm right in the middle of England. I'm in Stratford-upon-Avon in Warwickshire.
So, okay, so many people have heard of Stratford-upon-Avon, and tell us what it's really like.
Well, I have to be delicate because I work in the Shakespeare industry, so I can't give away any of the trade secrets. Okay. But it's beautiful. It is very beautiful. I used to live right in the middle of town. I used to live opposite Shakespeare's birthplace, essentially, on that street, on Henley Street. And I lived there for 25 years. And as I have matured, living in a place full of people has become a bit difficult. So last November we moved, and we're now right on the edge of town, overlooking a field. So I'm now looking a bit more at the countryside of Warwickshire, and it is just beautiful. It's such a beautiful place.
Oh, wonderful. Now, you say you're Shakespearean?
Yes.
You work. So what do you do? Are you an actor?
Oh no. Even though I haven't acted at the RSC. That sounds really big-headed. I was on the stage while other people acted, I think is probably the best way of putting it. I was somebody who stood at the back with a sword. So my first degree was in theatre. So I did for a while want to be an actor. And I kind of realised quite quickly that I suffer terribly with stage fright. I get really, really embarrassed talking in front of people. So probably being an actor isn't a great thing to do. But having loved the theatre, I then went into directing for a bit.
Okay.
But no, I'm nothing to do with that at all. I am a health and safety officer, environmental health and safety officer. So big chunk of environment, big chunk of health and safety for the organisation that looks after Shakespeare's houses.
Oh, okay. So what does that involve? Well, I'm just thinking Shakespeare's houses would have broken all of the current regulations.
Oh, very much so. Yes. The building regulations. Yeah, not so much, frankly. It is a really interesting job because we've got 5 different sites. We've got everything from warehousing. We've got a farm which breeds rare sheep. We've got these houses which are potentially a death trap if you go around them the wrong way or you do the wrong thing in them. Everyone can bang their head on a beam or fall over a floorboard, so it's a really diverse job. You never really know what you're going to get from one minute to the next. It's 1 minute you're dealing with ticks at a farm and the next minute someone's fallen over and everything in between, really. And of course, as I said, big chunk of environment. So today I've been looking at a piece of land close to one of our sites and working with the team of people to try to work out how we use that land, or rather how we let nature use that land, which is better. And so I do all of the sustainability and all of that, as well as the health and safety. So it's a vast job, but it's really interesting.
Wow. Okay. So
I know it's hugely diverse and probably not what you were expecting me to say.
I never know what somebody's going to say, and I'm always fascinated by the diversity of people's lives and of the members, and I never know what I'm going to hear, and that's always fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Well, this was my Druid job. I got this job at the point that I went into the Druid grade, so it was my. But I have had several jobs before. This was my standing up, responsible, looking after legislation job that kind of came along at a point when I went into the Druid grade, and I went, oh, hang on, that kind of fits with where I want to be. So yeah, I always see it as my Druid job, really.
Wonderful. So when Stratford and Avon, okay, it's obviously the Shakespearean Association and all of that. In terms of older than that, are there any sacred sites or special places around there that would interest Druids?
Yes, we're about half an hour away from the Rollright Stones, which are on the edge of Warwickshire and Oxfordshire, and very wonderful site down there. It's kind of 3 different bits. You've got a barrow they're called the Whispering Knights because the 3 stones have fallen on each other. Then you've got a stone circle, and those are the King's Men. The legend being that a witch turned them all to stone where they stood. And then you've got the King's Stone, which is standing out towards a hill, I think marking another barrow. So it's 3 different bits, all connected by the same myth, essentially, which is a fabulous little story. But that's about it, really. I know that I've just moved down into the area of Stratford that's closest to the Iron Age settlement that was here first.
Okay.
But Stratford is a medieval town, so it was very much designed and planned and kind of where it's at. So there's not an awful lot in that sense, really. Okay.
And do you have a grove or a seed group that you're a member of, or?
I don't. I'm looking at setting one up, maybe a seed group. I've got the forms from Paul. I have sometimes connected with the one in Birmingham, Dinas Canologue, which Craig runs, but I've never actually got to one because it's just that little bit too far. So I'm looking at setting up a seed group in Stratford, hopefully. I'm trying to think of a good name. That's the stage I'm at with it at the moment. Is kind of think of a name that fits. So yeah, I've got a couple which I'm musing over. But yeah, it's I'm I'm the only. I'm not. Am I the only Druid in town? I might be. I don't know. No one's come forward. No, actually, that's a lie. One person did make contact with me and went, "Oh, I'm a bit of a Druid too." So yes, that's there. There are a couple of.
Well, do you know Ferdiad?
I know of Ferdiad. I should be friends with Ferdiad, but we've never quite crossed.
Okay. Well, he says go for it. I promise you, won't regret starting a seed group.
Brilliant.
So that's really nice.
Thank you.
So, what brought you to Druidry? How did it find you, or how did you find it?
I was a really rubbish pagan for a very long time. I kind of dabbled with it. I had a few friends who were Wiccan, and there was a shop which opened up in Stratford called Could It Be Magic, which was just a magic shop. It was absolutely wonderful. But I was there's something, I was like, I'm not a Wiccan. There's something about it that's not quite right for me. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but I knew that it wasn't. I would try, and then it wouldn't take. And I came to Druidry quite by accident. I was teaching creative writing because before I was a health and safety officer, I was an English and creative writing teacher. Big change, big switch. And I'd been teaching creative writing for about 2 years, and you spend a lot of time trying to inspire other people. And I was like, I'm really not feeling very inspired myself. I wasn't writing. There was nothing. I was telling everybody, oh, you write this and all that. Couldn't do it myself. And I was just mucking around on the internet one night, and it somehow come up with, do you want inspiration? And it led me to the OBOD website about stepping into the Arwen. And then it was like, oh, it's got 8 seasonal festivals. Oh, hang on, this is a bit like that Wicca that I quite liked, but couldn't quite fit. So this has got the seasonal festivals and it's got the creativity. Let's give that a go. And that's what I did. I signed up. I found the first couple of Gwersi really challenging because I wasn't used to that. You know, I wasn't used to some of the challenges that you get in those early ones, and it kind of freaked me out a bit for a while about what I was doing. It's like, what are you going into here? But it was actually the thing that really hooked me in. Was I went to the very wonderful ceremony course that Penny and Matt run.
Yes.
I went to that, and that weekend changed my whole practice and changed the way that I viewed Druidry as well. And Penny actually that weekend put her finger on the difference between Druids and Wiccans, which summed it up for me. And she said, Wiccans command and Druids ask nicely. Yeah. And I went, that's it. That's the bit that's different for me. That's the bit I couldn't put my finger on. So once Penny said that, I was like, right, I'm home. I'm totally home here. I love it.
I didn't do those weekends with Matt and Penny. They weren't doing them in the early days. It was with Kate and Barry Riley.
Right.
And it was brilliant. Absolutely. Just really everything started to... Because, you know, when you're studying at home and then you go and you're in a kind of a workshop format and... There's an idea, somebody's... this is from Germany... a suggestion for your seed group.
Oh, Arcalor. Oh, you see, I was going down the Shakespeare route, which I think might be a trap, frankly, because I think there's more than enough Shakespeare in Stratford. I was going down like the Bards of Avon or something. You know, I thought that would be quite a cool name, but we'll see.
Why not? I mean, you know, that's where you are. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that's my current working title is the Bards of Avon. So.
Brilliant. How many Avon rivers are there?
2. Well, Avon is the old English word for river. So it's Afon, and it means Avon. But there's two big ones. So there's the one that's down in the southwest. Yes, that's the big River Avon. And then this one, the Warwickshire Avon, as it's called, flows into the Severn.
Okay.
So it joins at Tewkesbury, which is, from my sense, it's on my way to Glastonbury. So Tewkesbury is where the Avon meets the Severn. And so Tewkesbury floods a lot. But it's, it's kind of over that way a bit, really.
It's interesting you're saying, Afon, that's the Welsh word as well. And it's Awen in Irish, Abhann.
Okay.
So very, very similar.
Yeah, so someone around here was just very lazy. They just called it river.
That's wonderful. And there's another suggestion again from Germany, the Bards of Arkelor.
Oh, okay. See, yeah, absolutely.
And then Ferdinand, Shakespeare and a Druid walked into a pub. The barman says, "Oi, you two, get out. You're a bard."
You're bard. We actually have a pub in Stratford called Your Bard. we have a Shakespeare name for everything. That we used to have a shoe shop called Much Ado About Nothing. We had a toy shop called Much Ado About Toys, and I wanted to open a laundrette called Love's Labour's Wash, because it goes to silly heights around here, but it's quite amusing, frankly.
I was in a school yesterday, or 2 days ago. I work with a theatre company, working with an actor around positive mental health and suicide prevention. And I was looking, going to the classrooms, and you have all these notices. It's really interesting, different schools, what they put up on the walls. And on the back of this were all the Shakespearean insults.
Oh, brilliant. Yes.
I can't remember them. So I thought
they're wonderful. Yes, they're absolutely wonderful. We've got in one of our sites, we used to have, I don't think we've got it now. I think we stopped using it because of COVID. But there was like all the different Shakespearean insults, and you could put them together and make your own insult, which was rather amazing.
I thought there's some brilliant ones. He was
the master of everything, frankly. I mean, everybody's got this. I mean, yes, the poetry is gorgeous, but seriously, some of it is filthy. And you're like, once you understand the dirty joke, once you get the dirty joke, you're like, okay, that's like really filthy. So he moves from this beautiful high poetry down to the dirtiest of jokes, often in the same scene. And you're like, that skill as a writer to be able to do that.
Very balanced.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's wonderful. So, I know, I mean, you are a writer, even though you were meant to be a creative writer and a teacher of such, and weren't writing, but now you are. So...
That was my Ovate job. That was when I left teaching. I then had some time to work on myself and things, and books started to happen. So yes, so it's something that I'm keeping trickling through. So yeah.
So and you're in for a treat, by the way, viewers. It'll come soon. So how did you transition from I'm not doing any creative writing to I am? What was the process? What happened?
So again, it was that weekend with Penny and Matt. Because they basically teach you how to do ritual, and they say to you, it's that section at the end. May the memory hold what the eyes and ears have gained. You've got to have something in it that you remember. Whether that be a smell or whatever, you should take something away. And so I came away from that meeting that weekend, and I was like, how am I going to make each of these celebrations special? What can I put into a ritual that will enliven it for me, I suppose, that will make my memory remember it? And I went through this long process of working out why I like particular religious holidays. So why do I like Christmas, for example? Why do I like Easter? And the realization I came to was that what I love is the story. So at Christmas, I love the story of Christmas. I just think that's it. I mean, it is the return of the sun, obviously, isn't it? But it's a lovely image of the baby being born in the manger, and then you've got, just like with Shakespeare, you have the shepherds and the wise men. You have the two extremes coming together, and I love that. I love that story very much, even though I'm not a Christian. I just find that story really special. And in the run up to Christmas, it just, but then also, you've got Father Christmas, and that's a special story, and that layers over Christmas. And then the more I looked at it, the more I realized that so many of my favorite holidays are based around stories. So, for example, like most pagans, I suppose, I'm a very big fan of Halloween. And every Halloween I watch Hocus Pocus, and because it's just awesome. And I watch John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. And Halloween is my favorite film because on Halloween night, you sit down and you watch the story about what's happening on Halloween night. So Beltane, I always watch The Wicker Man. So it's always about stories, whether they be religious ones or whether they be ones that you kind of craft into your life. So I thought, what I've got to do for these ceremonies is I've got to write stories that I can enact or read out or perform as part of my ritual that will make the meaning of this celebration sink in. And that's what I did. And once I started, it just didn't stop. Well, I worked around that wheel of the year, and I got to the end, and I could have kept going, but instead I then started off on writing books. So it was just, it was like a tap went on. It was like I stepped into it, and it was like, you can do this now. And it was there. It was there.
And so where do you get your Awen and Imas from? I mean, do you go walking in the woods? Do you sit in front of your screen? Do you handwrite, or what do you do? How do you get it, or how do you tap into it? When does inspiration come to you?
I do like a walk. I do like a walk with an idea. I can then sort that out as I'm walking, whether that be like a creative one or a problem. Walking does that. Quite often, I'm I suppose two things really. I try to find inspiration in ordinary things. So I think I said to you before, I don't feel like I'm a very deep person because I don't go for things that are maybe necessarily sad or reflective or that kind of thing. I kind of go for an ordinary everyday thing and try to make it a little bit magical or a little bit special. So I try to look at ordinary things.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
Well, you did say that I could maybe bring some poetry with me.
Absolutely.
So do you want me to? I'm not going to read that poem now, but do you want me to read another poem?
Do a little bit. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so for example, I wrote a poem when I was a teacher. I'm not going to read this one out, but I wrote a poem when I was a teacher in teaching creative writing, and a student kept getting their phone out, and I had two options. I could either shout at them or I could channel that anger into poetry. So it became a poem. But over lockdown, I turned 75 Kylie Minogue songs into Shakespearean sonnets. Again, yes, one every day. But again, taking something that is completely ordinary and that people overlook and trying to do something special with it. But this one is called The Chair Where Alfie Sits. And Alfie is my cat. So at the top of our stairs is a chair. The chair where Alfie sits. The only reason it's there is because it no longer fits in the spare room, a Dantean pit, the graveyard of discarded tat. We've got other places to sit, so we've given the chair to the cat. It was plucked from equipment Gehenna to make way for my visiting dad. It has a cushion which cost me £10 and was the best that BHS had. It's a purposeless piece of old plywood with a raffia seat frayed and worn, but it covers a stain on the carpet and the place where the wallpaper's torn. One day I will paint our old landing when time and a fair wind permits. Until then, will you please be upstanding? Because that's the chair where Alfie sits.
Beautiful.
So it's just about taking a chair and writing a poem about it. And so that's what I try to do. I kind of think my stuff is quite ordinary because you take that and you do something different with it.
Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm really intrigued. I still can't get in my head. Shakespeareifying a Kylie Minogue song. Could you give us a little taster? Can you sing like she? And
no, I definitely can't sing. Don't ask. My housemate Becky has got a very good phrase for that. When I sing, I sound like a horse shouting through a trumpet. So no, I definitely can't sing. I'm trying. The song that probably the Kylie song that most people probably know is "I Should Be So Lucky." I would think.
Okay. And there are lots of people wanting more poetry. Yes.
So we will do "I Should Be So Lucky," and it's fully Shakespeareanized. So there is no complication in my mind, for often dost thou feature in my dreams. My visions are the sweetest sensual kind, that thou art mine a vision truly seems. Nor will my ardour let me hesitate. I dream we walk, and thou dost hold my hand. On naught but thee I fondly meditate. Oh, love me like I love thee, I demand. I find it hard, the longer that I wait, to conjure up the visions that I see. And I would run to thee to be thy mate, if one day thou wouldst deign to notice me. To cheat this heartbreak, I must needs be plucky. Oh, I should be so lucky, lucky, lucky.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Brilliant.
So there's 75 of those.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness.
It's what got me through that first lockdown. I was in such a stressed state because Becky is extremely clinically vulnerable. And I was waking up shaking with anxiety at the thought of COVID in those early days. And the way I got around it was by writing a Kylie sonnet every day for 75 days.
You weren't able to go to work. So you were
no, I was furloughed. Yeah, and because Becky's vulnerable, we were literally locked in the house. We just weren't allowed out. So we had people drop food in the back garden, and I had to go out and sanitize it. It was a very strange world.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the way I got through it was writing one of those a day, and then I'd record it and send it to my friends on Facebook, and here's today's Kylie sonnet, and then post the video to the song. So that was how I got through that first lockdown. So and it was a slog, and that's the other thing really is I have to slog, and there are times that I have to sit down and go, you are writing now, and I don't care how you're gonna write chapter 1 or you're gonna write 3 verses, and even if they're rubbish, you can go back to them, but you've got to break that dam and you've got to get something written. So quite often writing is a bit of a slog.
Yeah. Sean says, great and inspiring way to make the best of a terrible time in the world with joy and fun. And Tommy says, that takes a very stable person. Well done.
Thank you.
Has Kylie responded?
No. Friends of mine did tag her in it, but no, she never responded. To be honest, okay, confession time. I'm a massive Kylie fan. I've been a massive Kylie fan since 1980. So, there we go. Dirty linen out in public. If she in any way contacted me, I would not be able to respond. It would be like talking to a goddess. It would just be virtually impossible, I think. She was in Stratford. She was back in the 90s. She was going out with an actor who was at the RSC. So she was known to be in certain pubs at certain times, and I couldn't go. I was like, I just can't go there. I had to completely avoid the pubs.
Oh, wow.
Too much.
So I suppose this might be an example, but often a question asked is, how has Druidry supported you?
That's a really interesting one. It has changed my life completely. When I started on, I think that's what I was afraid of when I picked up those first Guernsey, and I found them really challenging, is I could kind of tell that this would be a big change for me. To do that, it would be a big change to move from where I was to where I needed to be. But I love it. I just love it. And one of the, I'm not sucking up here, but one of the things I really love is the community. It's the only place that I kind of, where I feel like I found a family. Some of those people that I met on that first day with Penny and Matt are still my friends, and we still meet up at every gathering, and and then you meet people along the way, and it's just, we were at the Druid Gore Says a few weeks ago, and that was just wonderful. There was I knew about 4 or 5 people, but the rest of the room was like, and it was just lovely to meet them. Everyone was so open and warm, and it was just great to meet those people. Despite that initial, oh God, I don't really know anybody here.
I remember my first one too. I knew Lorraine; she was my tutor, and the rest I had said hello to once or twice in the town hall. It was like, oh my God, but it was brilliant because that broke the ice. Yeah, and it was just wonderful. Absolutely.
Because I think because I think when I first went to the gathering, I was a member of Quobod, Paul's Quobod at the time, and that was a great help because I met Quobod on the Friday night. Yep. So when I walked into that hall on the Saturday, I knew people. I was with people anyway, but I knew extra people, and that's so important that you have that small meeting group. Because walking into that hall can be terrifying, but it shouldn't be, because everybody in that hall is lovely. I can guarantee it.
It's what you're bringing in with you. Yeah. And I'm very shy. Nobody believes that, but I am. I'm naturally shy. If I'm the hostess, that's fine. There could be thousands, and I will, because I have a job.
Yeah.
But when I come in as a guest or a new person, and you imagine everybody else knows everybody else, that can be quite difficult. I'm not good at small talk either. So
I'm very good at getting people together. So I'm very good at the start. I'll be like, oh, have you met so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of sink backwards and just kind of get a little bit like, oh, okay, everyone's getting on quite well now, and I'm the one standing against the wall. How did that happen? It's so it's an odd thing, frankly, but yeah, I'm although I don't appear to be, I'm quite shy, I think, deep down.
Yeah. Gabriella says, I said hello to Eimear and my mentor. That's at the summer gathering. Gabriella, I knew her from commenting at the chats, and she came up to me to say, I'm Gabriella, who likes to bet on someone's favorite season. Her success rate is not very good. She's very nice, though. She said, it was rather funny, as I knew lots of people from all the online ceremonies, but they did not know me. And I remember the first time I went with a friend who was on Facebook at the time, and she said, oh, they're my friends. How do you know all these people? Oh, no, we're friends on Facebook. And I wasn't on Facebook. And I found that really strange. But then she was able to go and to go up and say hello. She said, it took all my strength to come and say hi. Well, I'm glad you did, Gabriella. Oh, yeah. So
that first hello is, well, I think now is probably to put Gabriella's mind at rest. I think I'm just going to tell Gabrielle what happened when I first met you. So this was in the middle of a summer gathering, and so Gabriella, you'll feel much better after this. And Eimear had just been announced chosen chief by Philip, and there was just this wave of emotion that went through the room. And we then had a break after your talk. We then had a break, and I came over to see you with Valentina, my best.
She says hi.
Oh, hi, Valentina. My best Druid chum, Valentina. I met her on that first day, and Valentina has been my Druid rock throughout. So I came over with Valentina, thinking Valentina will protect me. But what I didn't really realise was that I was crying. So you took one look at me and went, are you all right? And I went, yes, I'm just a bit overwhelmed. And you went, do you want a hug? And I went, yes, please. That was it. I don't think I said anything else. So that's how I met him. So Gabriella, you're fine.
Oh, it's so sweet. I mean, I'm glad I moved into tears.
Like ways to embarrass yourself, Anderson,
Oh, you weren't the only one crying.
Yeah, no, that's true.
All across the way
you're like, who is this random man who I've never seen before? Why is he crying at me? What's he doing?
No, I could. No, there were other people I knew who I could see them crying.
Yes,
You
I
know.
could see Paul, who was sitting opposite me. Paul was crying, and I was like, I think that's what made me go. I think.
Yes, and Liz says, "What a wonderful memory to share." Yes, it was. It was lovely.
So I've shared it now. I don't have to be embarrassed about it
No,
anymore.
you don't. No, it's you're out of it. It's okay.
Yes, that's it. It's fine. It's fine.
Amanda says, as a fellow shy person, I find it challenging to be in large groups, but I've always found the Druid gatherings very welcoming, and I always find somebody there that I know. Yeah,
Absolutely. There's always a friend.
Yeah. So, all right. How about a little bit more of your bardic sharings? Some of your, before we get to the big one, I don't know how long it takes. There's no time limit. We're okay. But I like another Kylie song.
Oh, you want another Kylie song? Oh, okay.
That's brilliant.
Okay, right. Another Kylie song. So I'll tell you what I've got, and then you can kind of decide. So I've got The Locomotion. I've got Can't Get You Out of My Head. And then I've just got a random one, which is a little bit magical.
Do we have to choose? Go on, you choose. I think
okay.
We can do them all three. Song. Gabriella's saying, okay.
Well, everybody knows The Locomotion, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone knows The Locomotion. And it's a bit funny, The Locomotion one as well. So that's quite cool.
Let's do come on, baby. Let's do The Locomotion.
Come on, baby, do The Locomotion. Yeah, that one. Yeah. But of course, this time it's a Shakespearean jig. So there is a jig that everyone doth dance. My little sister dances it with ease. I think thou like it if thou give it chance, for 'tis as simple as thy ABCs. Just swing thy hips, jump forth and back. Let's locomote our bodies one time more. Why, verily, I think thou hast the knack. Now make a chain across the dance hall floor. Oh, like an engine shouldst thy body move, both full of soul and rhythm thou must be. If thou art sad, thy humour will improve when thou dost locomote again with me. Come on, and cry we all amain, for we shall dance as if we were a train.
Brilliant. Oh, that's lovely. I just that's lovely. That's lovely. And then that's brilliant. Gabriella said she was ready to boogie woogie.
But that's what I like to use my writing for, is to make people smile and make people laugh, and that's what I try to do when I write. So when I said to you before, I don't think I'm very deep, I think what I meant to say was I prefer to make people smile about something, and that's
elevate rather than depress people. Well, Sean Clancy laughed so hard he snorted his tea. So
apologies. That can be quite painful if it was hot. So apologies.
So Gabriella's whoop whoop whoop. That was brilliant, just lovely, excellent. I love it. Thank you. And Timey would like the magical one.
Oh, the magical one.
Yes, they're short, but they're really lovely.
Yeah, they're very, very short. It's actually from a song called Magic. So it's Sonnet 70. It's the very last one. The stars are changed in their spheres tonight. A sense of potency begins to grow. I am encircled with celestial light, and through my body energy doth flow. Oh, I say it was thee who conjured this. Now naught on earth can stop what thou didst start. I feel as if I'm falling into bliss, can't find the words to name what's in my heart. For when we cut a caper across the floor, then sense we the enchantments we have wrought. Let's make this evening last for evermore, and give tomorrow not another thought. Dost thou believe in magic? Tell me true. Dost thou, oh tell me if thou do.
Brilliant. Just lovely. Few comments about your profound superficiality. What could be deeper than bringing happiness and laughter? And Pat says, wanting to make people smile is deep.
Yeah.
And Gabriella says, joy is a very rare emotion in this world. It's precious when people choose to create it.
Yeah. The people who I look up to the most, the people that are the famous people that I admire, if you like, they are all people who make me feel good and make me smile and make me feel happy. So those are the people I try to emulate, really. So.
Absolutely. Totally enchanted, fascinated. Oh, Pat Booker has a challenge for you, and Pat would. Can Andrew Shakespeareify Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus?
That is a challenge. That is a challenge. If anybody's interested in these, there is a book called Shakespeare Sonnets. I nicked the idea. It's I can't remember who wrote it now, but it's called Shakespeare Sonnets. No, not Shakespeare Sonnets. Oh, what's it called? Pop Sonnets. The Pop Sonnets. And they do things like Bohemian Rhapsody and all of that. And that's where I got the idea from. It's just they didn't do any Kylie because they're an American author. And so Kylie being not particularly big in America, I just went mad for Kylie, frankly.
I just wonder, Ricky, you know Ricky Gellison, do you?
I do know Ricky, yes.
He's waiting for the Ramstein Shakespearean sonnets now. I don't know the reference. Ramstein.
And and I haven't got any. Sorry, Ricky.
Well, it'll come in time. I mean, I don't mean Pat. I don't think she intends you to just do it spontaneously.
No.
Are you good at extemporizing? But
no. In fact, that's what my first book was about. My first book was about not extemporizing because I can't do it. So
I have one friend. She's a member of the Order, Deirdre Wadding. She extemporizes. She has stood up at our night courts and she will sing a long song. And I go, when did you do that? Oh no, it just came to me.
Good Lord.
And not just the melody and the words. Just it's yeah.
It was I remember sitting in ceremonies or in gatherings and seeing people extemporizing and going, how are they doing that? If I write something, if I perform something, I have to get every word in place. I have to be absolutely sure of it. So I find extemporizing terrifying, frankly. So I have big respect for anyone who can do it.
It's a brilliant gift. So, do you have a daily practice, like a personal practice? Excuse me for coughing.
I don't. I've kind of really slipped actually, and actually coming to the Gorsedd has really helped me get back on track. I not daily, but I'm going back to doing full ceremonies for the 8 festivals now, which I'd stopped. I was doing smaller things, so I was always marking it in some way, but I'd kind of stopped doing the big casting of the circle and the corners and the quarters. And actually being in the Gorsedd again, where people were doing that, I suddenly realised the power of it, and so I went back to it. And because I always have to do something over Easter, because you've got 4 days of holiday, I'm spending a day with each quarter.
Lovely!
Over Easter, to kind of get back in contact with the quarter again. So, because of Easter, Good Friday, Sad Day, starting with the West and moving around from the West. So
wonderful. So, somebody's asking for Kate Bush, the early years catalogue. Yes, please.
Kate Bush is poetry anyway. She doesn't need translating. She's an awesome artist. There's no need to translate Kate Bush. It was really weird. Kylie's, and I haven't got it with me, so I can't read it. Kylie's has done one song which is really personal, and it's called Flower, and it was released after she recovered from breast cancer, and it's about the child that she will never have. So it didn't really chart very well because it's very melancholic. And that was the hardest one to do because it was poetry anyway. It was very difficult to take those lyrics and try to do. With Locomotion, you can muck around and be fun and find silly rhymes. With something like that, that was a really hard one to do. So yeah, there are some singers who don't need it.
Yes. Well, Valentina is saying we sang Recited Stolen Child as part of Peggy and Matthew, of course, and she says recounted most of it.
Yes,
or you recited most of it.
Yes, we when we did, we were in the water quarter, and I was very happy in the water quarter because I'm a very watery person, and we were asked to put together a bit of ceremony about our quarter, and I went, it's got to be The Stolen Child by Yeats. Don't know why, it just felt very watery. So I was I'd just been teaching Yeats, so was loving every moment of that.
Can you do it now?
No. That was about 8 years ago. It was a while.
A lot of water under the bridge. All right.
Yeah.
Pat says extemporizing is like that Neil Gaiman quotation about taking a leap of faith. Sometimes you fall and sometimes you fly.
Yeah.
Now, Pat herself she can extemporize when the mood hits her. So, so that's wonderful. What else I wanted to say? I think I'm done. Yes. So, what would you say has been you've had a lot of achievements. So what's the one you're most proud of?
Oh, good Lord. That's a really hard question, Eimear. I think
You have
the
to
thing.
choose, do you?
Sorry, I came here for a chat, not a grilling.
Oh, I
mean, there are several. I mean, I think the first achievement that I was really proud of is when I got an MA in Shakespeare. That's what brought me to Stratford, because I was not great at school. I was never there. I was always kind of out and running around, being places that I shouldn't have been. And I was the first one from my family to go to university, and so I was supported to go. But I only managed to get to Stratford because my sister died, and she left money behind, and I used that money to do my master's degree. So it was very very unexpected for me to do it. Literally, if you'd looked at me when I was about 13, you would have gone, that he won't be really doing anything. So I think to have done that was my first. I'm really proud of that because that changed my life. And then I think my books, I love, I still struggle with the fact that I have books, plural, and that they're out there and people read them and like them. And just the fact that people like them, I think it has been a really big surprise to me, and is something I'm very proud of.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. So what's the biggest challenge you've had that you've overcome?
In my life in general?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was a mummy's boy when I was little. I was such a mummy's boy, as you can probably tell. I adored my mum. I absolutely adored her. And I always needed her validation. Whatever I did, mum had to, if mum said it was good, it was good. And when I was 11, my mum died.
Oh my goodness.
It felt very sudden to me. It wasn't, but it felt very sudden to me. And I closed. What my family have subsequently said to me is the difficult thing is that you weren't reacting. And I didn't react to it because I couldn't. I have this blank in my memory where my dad told me. So I remember him telling me, but then the bit afterwards just isn't there. And I closed down for 4 years. I have no emotions from about 1984 to about 1988. Hence Kylie coming along and making me happy and starting to lift me out of that. And that really, when I think about it, it's even before COVID, when I was, I had a period of depression before COVID and was having counselling going into lockdown, and everything, all of my moods, my depression go back to that moment when I was 11. So that for me is the biggest challenge, to be a mummy's boy, to love that person that dearly, and to have her ripped away was very, very hard. And I think that's why I like making people happy again, and why I like making people smile, because I don't really want to go back into that emotion. That's fine. I'm still dealing with it at 50. But if I can make people smile and make myself happy while doing it, then that's the challenge, really.
Wow. And it's really interesting, grief. I'm familiar with it, and how managing and living with grief and holding it with happiness and with gratitude and all of the things that go with it. It's actually great to be able to do it when you can, and it hits you. I mean, grief isn't easy, but to be able to navigate your way with it.
I think that the thing that happened to me was I was too young. I was quite an immature 11-year-old anyway. You know, I was still playing with toys and things at 11. But by the time I was started to wake up and develop emotionally, I was 15. And so everybody else was that much further ahead of me in terms of development. And there are still times when I still don't think I've ever caught up. It's what I was saying earlier about how I'm great at introducing people, but then I think to the back of the room, there is still something about that socialization between those years of 11 and 15, which is still not quite there, I think. You know, I love people, and I love being with certain people, but there's times I really need to be on my own, and kind of trying to come to terms with that and deal with that in an adult way has been really hard. Because I just look like a stroppy teenager, even up until about the age of 45, I was still a stroppy teenager, you know. And Druidry has helped with it. I have to say, it has really helped.
What do you think? What do you think it is about Druidry that has helped you kind of move from being stroppy teenager to being a little bit more grown up?
We're not allowed to talk about the Quercy, are we?
No, not specifically. No.
So the being able to reflect on our inner child and uncovering that, and that's something that I've been able to do a bit more regularly. I think that tool to be able to go back and reflect kept leading me back to that child, and for a long time I ignored it. But when that kept happening through my Druidic practice, it was right. Okay, here we are. This is what we've got to deal with. Yeah. So it was,
leave you alone.
Yeah, absolutely. They won't go away. We're going to have to deal with them.
That's right. Yeah. Some children don't like to be ignored, so it's
absolutely. And you know, and it was, you know, what I found was a child in great pain who just couldn't tell anyone, even themselves. They couldn't even tell themselves how much pain they were in. That was really hard. It's like I said, I remember the counselling session where I worked out that I had the blank. I didn't even know I had the blank of, like, my dad telling me, and I remember the counsellor went, "Well, what did you do then?" And I went, "I don't know, got no clue." And that was a really great session, because it moved so much just to be able to go, okay, actually, there's a blank there, and I have to accept that, really.
Interesting. Gabrielle has an interesting comment here. She says, I think it's a blessing to prolong childhood. For some, it makes them, like grief, it makes them grow up instantly, and they've lost their childhood. So it's really interesting how, you know, people are children. Like my daughter was 13 when her dad died, and my son was 16. And how children respond, you know. And I mean, going blank is a protective function, and not recognizing your own pain protects you from pain. And it works well for the time.
Yes.
It's when you get into, you know, well into adulthood, and that strategy is no longer useful or effective. It becomes redundant.
It doesn't work. It's leaking out the sides. Yeah. It's interesting what you say there about children. When I've had several conversations with people about past lives, and I have been adamant through large parts of it that I've never had a past life, that I'm kind of on my first time round. Perhaps on my first time round as a human, I think I may have had other stuff, but I don't think I think I was probably an animal. But I genuinely think this is my first time round. And when I looked at my star chart, my birth chart, I was born on a new moon. So something new coming into the world. But I'm still kind of convinced that even if I have been here much, I haven't been here often, because I just find the world endlessly fascinating, and I still do really feel like I am a big kid on the inside. On the outside, you know, I've got the arthritic knees and everything else, but on the inside, it's like, no, there's still that child who wants to go and play in the field and wants to find out more and wants to read every book that's going. So there is still that kind of childlikeness inside, I suppose.
Wow. Gabriella says, I'm on the first time round as a human too. Ricky suggests, heaven knows how many times he's been a cat.
Yes, Ricky, absolutely. Yes. I did a regression, and I think I was an animal in Africa. I might have been a big cat or something like that. That's the kind of feeling that I got from it, that I was something like that.
Wow.
I couldn't quite put my finger on
it. Pat, it says, grief over family deaths put me back into a childlike state, even though those deaths all occurred in my late 20s. Afterwards was like another growing into a different adulthood. Yeah. I mentioned that my sister died. So my mum died when I was 11. My sister died when I was 21. And so I then had to go back through that again while still carrying all that stuff from my mum. And I think that's why I stayed away. So I moved away from home at that point. My family are from Hertfordshire. I'm from St Albans in Hertfordshire originally. And I think I had to, I've said this to my family, I had to go and find a new normal somewhere. I had to go and go, right, this is my world. Not that I'm controlling it in any way, shape or form, but I've moved. I literally physically had to move. Good. And it's not you listening to yourself and doing what it is you need to do at that time. Really, really important to be able to do that. Blake says, many people say they remember being a druid in a past life. Andrew, if it's your first lap, you can get the distinction in a future life of being a druid in a past life.
Where do we go from here, though? That's the question. Is it up or is it down? Will I come back as a slug or something? Who knows?
Well, Ferdy is hoping that if he's good in this life, he'll come back as a Labrador. So
yes, a spoiled dog. That would be a nice thing to come back as.
Yeah, and
or a well looked after cat.
yes, yeah, well looked after. And Pat says, the world has to change, at least for us, after major losses. Yes, it does. Yes. And where it's very painful, but hopefully we can grow from it. Now, the rate of growth and the speed with which we grow, it's all individual, and it all comes in its own time. There are very, very fast growing trees, and there are very, very slow growing trees.
Yeah.
And it's there are no rules. It's about following your path with as much awareness as you can.
Yeah, and I think that's so true, and that's so important that people in grief know that, because there can be the sense of, I'm not progressing fast enough. Yeah. I remember my dad taking me to the doctors, because as I didn't go to school, I truanted a lot. They literally, I used to go out the door, watch the rest of the family go off to work, and then pop back in to watch Laverne and Shirley on the telly. And my dad took me to the doctors and said, he's just not going to school. We don't know what's up with him. He's not going to school. And the doctor went, his mum's just died. And my dad went, it doesn't matter. He's kind of got to get on with it now. And the doctor was like, there's nothing wrong with him. His mum's just died. And I was just at that point moving between junior and secondary. So I was going into a whole new school as well. And it was like, whoa, there's too much here. So, all of that, it was a big thing to deal with.
Huge.
Yeah.
And you see, and of course, people around are always find it very difficult to cope with children who are upset, and hopefully they'll try to ignore them and not let them. Did you go to your mother's funeral?
No, I refused. I was going to go. I was actually going to go and see her body until the very last minute, and then I didn't go. And I was due to go to the funeral, but at the last minute, I said I couldn't go. It was my family were very good with me. They just, I mean, my brothers and sisters are all older than me. So the next brother up was 14 when I was born. So there's like, so I think, and then my oldest sister is 18 years older than me. So there's a big gap. And I just think how do you deal with this child who's just sitting there? And it's not that the child is necessarily causing trouble. The child just isn't doing anything. You know, they're not reacting. When you shout at them, they're not reacting. That must be a really strange thing to have to deal with. Who you know is upset, but who won't cry. I was stroppy. I did get stroppy. I remember I was very stroppy on the first Christmas, and I wouldn't tell anybody why. We had a friend come up from down the road, and I told them, and my family were like, well, "Why wouldn't he tell us?" I was going to tell who I was going to tell.
Well,
you know. It's all gone very deep.
Yes, for you. Doesn't. No. And just there's a bit of humor, and then there's a seriouser question. But Valentina says, "If you come back as a slug, do not end up in my allotment, please."
Valentina is a fiend in that allotment. I know that much.
Oh, okay. Sean says, "Is there anything you'd recommend to help to support a friend or loved one who's going through that grief?" Just based on your own experience, I think.
Just be there for them. Let them be irrational, quiet, do what they need to do, and just make sure that they know that you are there. Even if you're not physically there all the time, just let them know that you are there for them as and when they need you.
I think one of the hardest things is not being able to do anything. And it's fine if somebody says, "Oh yeah, just sit there and I really appreciate," or they keep you updated a little bit, it's just my grief. But when they won't cooperate, as in when they won't make it easy for you, that's one of the hardest things. And that's where the real challenge lies. And the real gift is to be able to sit with them when the bereaved person is difficult or not making it easy for you. Yeah. So it's Andrew, this is from, do you know Gunter Nall?
I do know. I know Gunter. I met Gunter in Switzerland. We discussed RTO and all sorts of wonderful things. Bought me a very, very wonderful vegan meal. Hello, Gunter.
He says, "I guess you're going to the other world and studying there all the bears and cats who are playing with the fairies."
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's Nimi says, "I'd rather be a snail than a slug, a traveler." Okay.
And you take your house with you.
Shelter. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just wonderful. I think you're an old soul is what Carmen says. She's in Spain.
Oh, thank you. It's, maybe I have these blind spots. I'm perfectly willing to accept that I have blind spots on these things because, they happen, don't they?
Yeah. Pat has, okay, well, there's another one. Wait a second. This is, tell us about A Midsummer Night's Dream. Did Shakespeare visit the other world?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he did. It's a wonderful play, though. I do love it. It's I actually used it as the basis for my summer solstice story, Midsummer Night's Dream. So I rewrote it. I reimagined the fairies and I set it at like a
lovely
festival. We've got in this habit in England now of having festivals in the summer. So I kind of rewrote it as that. It's what I love about Midsummer Night's Dream is that Shakespeare is playing with these old British mythological archetypes. It's wonderful in that sense, but it's very much a play about seeing. So how often is a no, I can't think of it. Stop me before I quote again from Shakespeare. It's something like how easily is a hedge seen as a bear. So it's about how we don't see things properly. Mm-hmm. And of course, Oberon and Titania and Puck are on stage and you can't see them. So there's that, we can see them, the characters can't see them. There's all of that. So Midsummer Night's Dream is very, very much about sight.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Also, in case you've not read Midsummer Night's Dream lately, big climate change speech in the middle of it, because it was written after a period of the little ice ages that they had in Shakespeare's time. And Titania has the line, "And thorough this distemperature, we see the seasons alter." And it's a wonderful line to sum up climate change. I use it quite a lot when I'm trying to tie Shakespeare and climate change together, because she literally is like, distemperature, the temperature is changing and the seasons are altering. So yeah, it's a big climate change thing in there.
Wow. And of course there's so many cycles of climate change. It's fascinating. Gabriella says, Andrew, one thing I discovered is that the early age death experience overlaps with coming into human form. So there is grief for the past life as well, and the death experience comes over for people on first human lives.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Gabriella. If Gabriella's got tickets to the next Druid, the next gathering, come and say hello, because we've got lots to talk about.
I think she said she did. Yeah.
Excellent. Come and say hello, Gabriella.
Philip says, condolences, Andrew. 11-year-old, same story here. Didn't cry either, and they thought something wrong with me too. Sometimes hard to grieve publicly at 11. Absolutely. Yeah. And my children didn't. They cried just as Howard died after that. They didn't. And they didn't like people coming at them. And so I was there with them. Because their own thing.
Yeah. Don't come at me and hug me. Don't come at me and be nice. Literally, I remember that day I put on my normal, I put on clothes. I went down to play with my friend down the road. I just got out of the house and did something normal. Because anything like that, any of the big displays of affection were like, no, because then something is different. Something has changed and I don't want that.
Yeah. And Gabriella, I think it's that quotation, if these shadows have offended, think but this and all is mended, that we have but stumbled here, no more yielding but a dream.
Yes. That's the epilogue.
Of Summer Night's Dream. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Gabriella does have tickets, so.
Oh, fabulous.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Okay. She builds up the courage to talk to you.
Don't build it. There's no, look, I'm quite friendly, I hope.
Of course you are. I can vouch for that, Gabriella. Ferdiad suggests maybe Pratchett did visit to the other world before he wrote Lords and Ladies.
Yes,
are you telling me
that? Yeah, he uses a lot. He crosses over with Shakespeare because there's Weird Sisters as well, which is Midsummer Night's Dream. So yeah, Pratchett, he was a great lover of Shakespeare, or a great lampooner of Shakespeare as well. I think, he thought Shakespeare had his limits. Those of us who like Shakespeare can get a little bit carried away. There is this whole, he is universal. He was not for an age, but for all time. And it can all get a little bit heavy. So I do like somebody coming along every so often going, yeah, have you read that line? It doesn't make much sense, does it really? Just pop that bubble occasionally. It's great. We all need it. We all need that to and Shakespeare is no exception.
Yes. And I only did, I came very late to Terry Pratchett. It was following a discussion about whether I was Nanny Ogg or Granny Weatherwax. Two members of the order were discussing. No, I think she's with. I think she's this. I think she's that. So it was really. I have to read these.
So you read the book and decided yourself. Yeah.
I love them. Well, I'm kind of a bit of the two. I love Nanny Ogg just keeping everything in her knickers and putting bottles of wine and cakes and all sorts of stuff for the journey home. Just that.
Bex, who I live with, Bex is the big Terry Pratchett fan, and she still can't read the last one. She can't read the last one because I believe Granny Weatherwax dies. She can't read it. She can't read it. So we are not reading the last Terry Pratchett because, of course, it was his last novel as well. So she's like, no, I'm not reading that one.
Oh, I Ain't Dead.
Sorry?
I Ain't Dead. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Wow.
So she won't read it because while she doesn't read it, they're still alive. Which,
Spoilers, sweetie. This is Ricky.
Sorry.
Blake says, I have a few friends who want to corner me till I read Pratchett. I have to admit, I've not read any of his books yet. Suggestions on where to start. Pat Booker will tell you. I started with them. I'm not very good at remembering titles, but it was the Weird Sisters. I
think my first one was Guards. So the Guards of Ankh-Morpork. Yes, those were my first ones.
Lots of people avoiding the last book. It was really interesting. Wasn't it Pratchett that loved Elder Scrolls Oblivion? That video game? I'm not a video game person. Yeah. I thought they were just brilliant.
They're so easy to read. They're full of humour and they're so clever. They're so clever and so knowing. Yeah.
And also, he's so wise. Just okay. So Verdiet says I'd start with the Word Sisters, the Witches Abroad, and then Lords and Ladies. Yeah. Okay. So brilliant. So tell me, do you have any regrets?
Kind of. Yes, kind of. As I said, I kind of went off and did drama and Shakespeare. When I was young, I was really into like British wildlife. I collected books about it. I could tell you the names of all the birds. I remember seeing my first mole while I was walking in a woodland. I was constantly playing in woodlands. There was a big woodland near where we lived. I was really into animals. And after my mum died, I spent a lot of time with my auntie and my uncle. And my uncle he knew all the farming traditions. He was a great animal lover. And he passed on some of that knowledge to me. And then I got distracted by the bright lights of literature and the bright lights of drama. And I actually think what I should have done is I probably should have done some kind of environmental degree earlier. I mean, it's been a long journey and it's let me express my creativity. But I think I probably should have gone into him, because I think that's when I came to Druidry, I rediscovered all of that. I'll sit there and watch Spring Watch and go, oh, that's a nuthatch. I just, it's in there, it's stored up, and I just wish I'd pushed that when I was younger, because then I would have actually been working with the land and with wildlife a lot more closely, a lot earlier, rather than having had a period of disconnection from it, really.
Yeah, it's a nice regret to have, but you're back there. You're doing it now, so it's not as if that was it.
Absolutely, something I'm putting right now.
What's the most reckless thing you've ever done?
I've got on a train across Russia and China.
Go on, tell us about it.
It was the most un-Andrew thing I've ever done. A friend of mine said, I fancy going on the Trans-Siberian Railway for my 50th birthday. Do you want to come? And I went, yes, I'll come. Signed up, paid for it all. And then what the hell have I done? And so we flew out to Estonia and we got on a train. We went to Russia, to Moscow, stayed a couple of days in Moscow, and then went all the way over Russia. Got to Lake Baikal, where all of the shamans practice, and then turned south, went through Mongolia, down to Beijing, saw the Terracotta Army, and then finished in Shanghai. That was the most reckless thing I've ever done.
Was it reckless?
It was for me, yes. I kind of had a small breakdown halfway through. After about 3.5 days on a train, I was like, what am I doing? We're literally in the middle of nowhere. There's not anybody here who speaks English. If anything goes wrong, what are we going to do? It was so far out of my comfort zone. It felt very, very reckless for me to do that. But I look back on it now, it's like a different person, and I loved doing it.
So what did you do all day? I mean, did you were looking out the windows and look at that, looking at scenery?
Pretty much.
Was it a comfortable train?
This was the bit that wasn't reckless. We went first class. but first class on the Trans-Siberian is not first class. You still so you've got, basically you're in a cabin with one other person. If you're anything other than first, you're in a cabin with 4 people and you don't really have a door. So we were in first class. So I was in a room with somebody that I knew. We shared a bathroom with somebody that we didn't know. There was a wash basin and a shower in there, but you're still sharing toilets with everybody on your carriage, and one of those toilets is like a European sit down at one end, and the other one is a hole in the ground. And and it's like, okay, this is interesting because this train is moving. Sorry to bring the tone down, but it was first class, but it wasn't luxurious, shall we say.
And the food?
Very expensive. We went to the food car one night, and that wiped out all of our money. So we were literally buying things. Yeah, it was like,
Wow.
Because, we bought all these things, and then it was like, how much? And so we were literally buying things off of platforms and eating them. So I don't really know what we were eating, because it was like, well, that looks tasty, let's have that. But you didn't know what was in it because they were all speaking Russian and I wasn't. So yes, it felt reckless, but it was, I mean, what an adventure. I still kind of go, did I really do that? There is a picture of me in Ulaanbaatar with the sign behind me, so I was definitely there. Wasn't photoshopped in.
And did you get off? Did you get off at various stations and stay off for a while and sightsee, or was it?
Not on the main journey. We did. So we spent a couple of days in Tallinn, a couple of days in Moscow, a couple of days in Beijing, 1 day with the Terracotta Army in Xi'an, and then 2 and a bit days in Shanghai. So we just didn't really stop in that bit in the middle. I would have loved to have got off in Mongolia. The food car in Mongolia was totally different. For a start, it was free. In Russia, you got charged a lot of money. In Mongolia, you just went into the car and they just gave you food. And it was beautiful. It was, wow. And they changed the car. So you'd been in the car one day and the Russian one was all kind of Formica and plastic and looked a bit like an American diner. And then you went back into the Mongolian one and it was all decorated wood. And it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah. And in China, the food was free as well. So you were given a meal. Yeah. And it was all free. Yeah. How
long was the trip? This is a question here from the
14 days. And I think at least 7 of those were the Trans-Siberian, straight through on a train, 7 days not getting off of the train. So when we did get off it in Beijing, we were like, are we still moving? We still feel like we're moving,
So what did you do? I'm just thinking of no exercise. You're not walking for 7 days.
No, you did. We didn't work. And you become really kind of, it was like lockdown, when you're kind of, you don't want to leave your house. I remember when we pulled into Beijing, we were like, we can't leave this train. We can't possibly leave here. It was a bit like Stockholm syndrome, It's like, no, we can't get off. We can't go around, We'd fallen in love with our captivity on the train and we just didn't want to get off. But thankfully, we went to a very nice hotel in Beijing. And then the next night we were on another train. So we didn't have long to wait.
So how did Beijing compare to Shanghai?
Beijing was my favorite of the 2. Beijing is beautiful. And one of the things I love is spirit of place. I really respond very strongly to spirit of place. And in Beijing, it was misty skied. I know it was pollution, but it was misty skied. It felt romantic. It felt like the quintessential China. There were bits of Shanghai that you could have been on Oxford Street in London. It's very westernized. So Beijing was the real taste of China. Well, actually, Xi'an with the Terracotta Army was the real taste of China, because that was astonishing to see. That because I was very like, meh, don't really want to see that, not bothered. And you walk in and you see it and you're like, okay, okay, I was wrong.
Amazing. Nimi says, my longest non-stop trip was 3 days, New York to El Paso on a Greyhound bus.
Look, I when I've been to the States, I've said to my friends about how I would love to go down. I've kind of been to most of the East Coast and I would love to do that on a train. And they'll look at me like I'm mad. Like, why wouldn't you just get on a plane? And I'm like, no, but the train's so much fun. You see everything going by. You see the most beautiful sights that you don't see on a plane. Sorry.
And Ferdy says, that's astounding. Longest I was on a train was through the Caucasus. It was worth it because when I left Baku for Tbilisi, I could I could see leaving on a midnight train to Georgia. And he says, yes, I got some funny looks. Did you actually sing it, Ferdy? Brilliant.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. What a perfect opportunity. You had to do it.
It's worth taking that train trip just to sing the song.
Yeah. Refusing an earlier train because I've got something planned.
I have a purpose. What are you grateful for in your life?
I'm grateful for my little family that I have. My housemate Bex, she's my best friend. I've been lucky enough to live with her for 25 years. Yeah, I know. It's like we've lived together a long time, and you know, I love living with Bex. She's so clever and funny, and she's brilliant. She's my best mate. And my two cats. You know, I'm a great lover of animals. Marlo, my black and white cat, is 16. Alfie's 19. Wow. And I look at them every day, and even when they're throwing up on the carpet, I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm still horribly grateful for you. You know, I said to Bex, you know, when the four of us, me, Becky, Marlo, and Alfie, it's like, for me, it's like a golden time in my life. Oh, Alfie's at the door. But it's like a golden time in my life. So I'm so grateful for this little family that I have here. Yeah,
that is so beautiful. Just some comments about your trip, Ricky. Terracotta Army. Some folk will do anything for a man in uniform.
Yeah, even go halfway across the world, Ricky. That's right.
Oh, it's. Somebody says the longest I've been on a train was on an 18-hour trip that took 48 hours. I was not happy about that.
I can imagine.
The train broke down twice. Yeah. Ram Bastet. I saw tribals of India doing nature worship while on a train. It was a rare sight on the full moon. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Just beautiful.
We saw some strange things going across Siberia. You know, we went in about March, April time, and you know, you saw cars sunk in the mud halfway up their wheels, and they weren't coming out of there until it thawed. You know, we went past this what looked like a mound, just this big mound, but there was like a garden around it. And as we went past the front, there was a door in the front, and the inside was lined with newspaper, and it was someone's house. And it was like, wow, look at that! Imagine it. And he was in the middle of a forest, and it was just. You know, just it's such a different way of life, Wow. And Lake Baikal, the largest freshwater lake in the world, frozen solid, and you can see the waves frozen.
Oh my God, so it was like that?
Yeah. Wow, so as you looked at it, it was like that. Is that moving? No, it's not. It's completely frozen. The waves are frozen upwards. And of course, you couldn't take a picture of it because you're taking it through the window, and the windows are dirty. So, you know, I've got pictures, but it looks like it's hailing mud. But it was, yeah, the ripples were frozen on the lake.
Robert has a question. Did you see any particular animal whilst on your trip that you didn't expect to see or that stood out as breathtaking?
No, I was hoping for a bear. It didn't happen. I was seriously hoping for a bear, and it didn't happen. I think the train must make quite a lot of noise, so you don't. A lot of the animals clear out of the way before you get there. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is unfortunate because I love animals. So yes.
I know. Yeah. And somebody wanted to know, was that house Baba Yaga's house? But is Baba Yaga's house? She's got
legs on hers, hasn't she?
Chicken leg. Yes.
But it was kind of the sort of place that you would imagine Baba Yaga living. Yeah, very definitely. Very definitely.
Wow. Like no decent raccoon or panda or red panda. No. Okay.
No, we didn't. We didn't really go near any. We didn't go to any zoos, or I think the only thing that's springing to mind is a plastic cow in Moscow. but that's not. They had a restaurant called Moo Moo, which was like milkshakes and beef burgers, and there was this big plastic cow on the outside of it, and that's the only animal I recall seeing on the whole journey. Unfortunately, it was very city based.
That's brilliant. So, are we ready for more of your bardic offerings?
We could do.
Somebody suggested you let Alfie in. Is he still at the door? That they want to see him. People are animal friendly here, actually.
Here we go. Coming in then, mate. Yeah. Yes, we're talking about you. Yes, you are. Yeah, come on then. Can you hear this? This is what I have to put up with all the time. Yes, come on. Yeah, I said you could come on. Come on. There we go. He's just got interested in the TV. He's 19 years old and has just got interested in the TV. Look at that face.
Hello.
Hey, Alfie. Say hello. There we go. He's become obsessed by the television in the last 2 days, and we don't know why. I think he's enjoying Great British Menu and is just staring at the telly when all the food's come on it. I don't know. But yeah, so this is Alfie. Alfie's about 19, you think, and he's a talker, as you've heard. Don't rub against that, because that computer will go wobbly. That's right. But yeah, he's my boy. He came from Hertfordshire. He came from the same village that my dad was born in.
Ooh,
so I moved up here, and then we'd had Marlowe, and Marlowe was a destructive influence in our lives. And we thought, we'll get another cat for him to play with. And my sister said, there's a ginger cat that's being thrown out of the window of a 3rd floor building regularly by the family who had Alfie. They got Alfie and they had a child at the same time, and the child was taken to throwing Alfie out of the window. So I know. So they were the RSPCA had been around and said, if you don't give the cat away, we will take the
give the child away. And I'm joking about giving the child away.
Yes. And so we got Alfie from that. And so it's interesting. Marlowe is from Worcestershire, which is where Becky's from, and he's always been Becky's cat. And Alfie is from Hertfordshire, where I'm from, and he's always been my cat. So I think there must be something in the genes.
So he came to you with just 6 lives. Obviously, the 3 he'd used up and thrown out the window.
Bless you, sweetie. He looks rough, tough, and mean and grumpy, but he's the sweetest soul I've ever met. He's very nervous. He gets very scared very easily. So he looks rough, tough, and mean, but he's a glorious little chap, aren't you, mate? Thoroughly spoiled.
Wonderful. I remember visiting this guy's house to pick up a painting. He's an artist. And it was with his parents, and they had 8 cats everywhere, up and worked up a whole lot. The mother was 24.
Wow.
And she had a litter of 7 or 8, and they didn't have the heart so they kept them. So she had one litter. So there was 8.
And they were all still there.
Yes, they were. And obviously she looked much, much older, but cats look like old rugs, when they got to reach.
I was never a cat person. I was a dog person. I had dogs when I was younger, and I've just turned into. These two are such characters. What he's doing, in case you're wondering why my camera's wobbling, he's rubbing around the table, owning it, he's putting his scent on it, yes. And so everything's wobbling.
Pat says, sounds like Nanny Og talking about Grebo. He's a big softy, really.
You are a big softy, aren't you, mate? Yeah.
Can you ask him if it's okay to read your...
Alfie, can I read your poem?
Yes. I've heard this. It's wonderful. I'm looking forward to hearing it again.
I think this is the reason why he's come into the room, frankly. So, yes. So, can I do a shameless plug for my book, Eimear?
Absolutely. Be as shameless as you can.
Absolutely shameless. So my 3rd book, The Magic of Cats, is out on the 28th of April. And I wrote this a couple of years ago. It's illustrated by the very, very wonderful Hannah Willow. So Hannah Willow's artwork is just absolutely amazing. And I was very honoured that she illustrated it for me. And it's basically, there you go. You can see Alfie there on the front cover.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's Marlowe underneath. So they are the cat of the night and the cat of the day in this poem. And the idea was, it came from Becky. Becky said, we don't mythologize our cats enough. We need to do more. They need to be famous. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, what can we do? And so I started to like talk to Alf and say, how do I mythologize you? How do we do that? And as that conversation went on, I began to think, well, I wonder if you have any myths or any stories. So this was, I was very much thinking about that myth writing and how to make things meaningful. And I came up with the idea of a cat creation myth. So it's a story that cats tell to their kittens. Come on, then up you come. There you go. There's a tail. So this is a story, a cat creation myth that cats tell to their kittens as they go to bed at night. So it's in the style of, I suppose, and The Night Before Christmas, that kind of poem. Okay. Right, now you've got to be good, because I'm reading your poem and we want people to like it, don't we? Yes. Okay. Long, long ago, before there was time, before there was music or stories or rhyme, the moon loved the sun so much she gave birth to a small little planet, which we call the Earth. The moon loved the earth with its rivers and seas. The sun loved the earth with its mountains and trees. Each wanted to give their new child a toy to show the earth how she had filled them with joy. Moon spoke to the stars for help with this task. What gift can I give, she started to ask, when out of her skirt, giving her such a fright, rolled a little black cat called the Cat of the Night. The Cat of the Night was a black, black cat, a cat so black he was blacker than black, so black that underneath his coat was every other colour dancing. And Moon so loved the Cat of the Night, she bathed his heart in purest light. The stars grew close to see him blessed with a white, white moon on his black, black chest. The little black cat twitched his little black nose as the stars laid a kiss on his little black toes. He skipped as they tickled, he jumped left and right, when each of his paws turned a bright, brilliant white. So the Cat of the Night with the black, black nose, with the moon on his chest and the stars on his toes, was a gift to the earth as a sign of great love from her silvery mother in the dark skies above. Sun ran to his friends, the clouds, in such fright. "Oh, clouds, have you seen the Cat of the Night? I need a good gift," he started to say, when out of his crown rolled the Cat of the Day. The Cat of the Day was a white, white cat, a cat so white he was whiter than white, so white that underneath his coat was every other colour dancing. And Sun so loved the Cat of the Day, he chased his friends, the clouds, away, then filled the cat's belly with a deep golden heat, which coloured his tail, his body and feet. The clouds gathered round where the golden cat laid, and crisscrossed his back with a deep cooling shade. He lolled and he wriggled, he stretched and he rolled, as his coat became striped with a deepening gold. So the Cat of the Day, with the pink, pink nose, with the dark stripy back and the bright golden toes, was a gift to the earth as a sign of great love from her fiery father in the bright skies above. The earth loved the moon, and the earth loved the sun, and earth loved the cats and would cuddle each one. When the cats saw each other, they wanted to play, and started a race that goes on to this day. They race and they chase and they chase and they run, because running and racing and chasing is fun. They chase from the east and they race to the west, because running and racing and chasing is best. Each morning at sunrise, the Cat of the Day rolls over the hill, chasing nighttime away. At sunset, the other one rolls into sight, and darkness belongs to the Cat of the Night. In summer, the daytimes are longer and bright, when the Cat of the Day beats the Cat of the Night. In winter, the Cat of the Night wins the sport, so nighttimes are long and daytimes are short. They chase from the east and they race to the west, because running and racing and chasing is best. They race and they chase and they chase and they run, because running and racing and chasing is fun. Moon follows the night, sun follows the day, as they run and they race and they chase and they play. Each follows the cat they created from love, looking down on the game from the skies up above. Earth still loves the moon, Earth still loves the sun, Earth still loves the cats and embraces each one. And the chase still goes on, because that's how they play, the Cat of the Night and the Cat of the Day.
It's beautiful. Absolutely wonderful. Really, really enjoyed that.
And you got a meow from Alfie halfway
I
through.
heard it.
Just to add extra atmosphere and you know, and tone.
Wonderful. Who are you? I mean, we mentioned Terry Pratchett and Shakespeare. And Neil Gaiman got a little bit of a mention, not by you. Who's your? Do you have a favorite author?
Oh, I do.
Right.
It's not an author as such. It's a writer, and it's Victoria Wood. I don't know if everybody knows who Victoria Wood is. She was a British comedian, very big in the 80s and 90s, and her work is astonishing. It's what I was saying about crafting. Victoria Wood finds a rhythm in her comedy, and it's beautiful. And you can tell that every single word is considered, and quite often there is a killer punchline which you don't see coming, and the way it's phrased just perfectly ties that knot on the bow. And in her later life, she went on to work on more serious projects, and those words were just as powerful in just a different way. She used that same technique, that same rhythm. And I've been trying to write like Victoria Wood since I was about 14, because she just inspires me. She's just a wonderful, wonderful writer and such a funny person.
Wow, lovely. So beautiful. So lots of brilliant myth, worthy of cats. My 3 night cats approve. I love the poem. Can't wait to get the book. Absolutely delightful. And then lots of people love Victoria Wood. Fantastic on her piano. So your creation myth is charming, Alfie. Just brilliant.
Yeah. It raises him to the status of a small god, so he is happy. Just to explain about the book isn't just that poem. It's
what's the title of the book, and I can put it in. So
The Magic of Cats.
Okay.
So it's a non-fiction book about the history of cats, and yes, it is. It's about like cat history, cat mythology, cats in mythology, all of those kinds of things. And I use the cat of the night and the cat of the day to structure the book. So the first half is about the cat of the night. That's kind of the mystical, magical witch's cat that we have this traditional image of. And then the cat of the day is a new cat. It's about the cat in the physical world, in the apparent world. So the poem is used as a way of structuring it, and the poem is at the back of the book.
And who's the publisher?
It's Moon Books.
And so where will this book be available?
It should be everywhere. I mean, is
it coming out what, April 1st?
April the 28th.
Yeah. Okay.
April 28th. Yep. So you should at that point be able to go into any bookshop and order it. If they haven't got it in stock, they can definitely order it for you, because obviously you can get it through the big things like Amazon, but sometimes it's nicer to go into a smaller bookshop and order it. Yeah. So they'll be able to get that for you.
He's very chatty.
He's such a chatty cat. Yes, he tells you everything. He's got names for us. I have a name, and Becky has a name, and Marlo has a name. So you can always tell who Alf is talking about. He hates a closed door, so I've let him in and closed the door. So all of this is because I've closed the door.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's because I've closed the door because Becky has an oxygen machine. And so there's like a loud rumble in the background. So it would sound like we had a pneumatic drill going if I opened the door too much.
Okay, that's wonderful. Anyway, so a concern you have about the modern world.
Oh, you're not making this easy.
No.
No, really not.
I'm trying really hard.
Yeah, I think my big concern is that people aren't looking up. They're not looking up from their phones. They're not looking up. And I do this as well. There are days that I get lost in my phone or I get lost in the TV screen or the computer screen. And we need to look up and go out. And, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, and so many people are feeling stressed and anxious all the time. And is it any wonder in the world that we live in? Just look up from your phone and go out for a walk. Go and get out in nature. Go and hug a tree. Just get away from the screen, because it will still be there when you come back, and you can go back to it if you want to, but you might feel better if you just go for a walk. So that's my concern. And I think I saw that in teaching as well. I saw a gradual shift away from kids who were interested in things and would read a novel, to children, they weren't children because they were 16, so students who just didn't want to read. They wanted the A-level qualification in English, but they didn't want to read a book because it's too much time. They can look up a summary on YouTube. And there's so much that you lose if you just go in through this.
That's about getting to the destination rather than experiencing the journey. Absolutely. So it's a bit like a Trans-Siberian train.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, just get used to looking at that birch forest, because it's going to go on for a few days. And it's that's my concern, is that we're so stuck on screens all the time, and we need to get out.
So what gives you
other concerns? There's the climate crisis, and there's Russia, and but getting out and going for a walk is the thing. We'll sort that out.
Pat says when she started training, you couldn't stop the kids talking to each other. Now you can't get them to interact except via screens.
Completely.
What a culture shift in not very much time.
Yeah, completely agree. Trying to do group work became very, very difficult, because they just didn't want to talk. Yeah, it's very strange. I'm going to let Alfie out. I'll be back in a second. Okay. All right, mate, out you go. Go on then. There you go. He has gone.
Well, people were very happy to meet him, and
yes, I'm glad. I'm glad he's put in an appearance, because he's had an open invitation all evening. I was like, and Marlo, just let me know when you're there. You can come in. But Alfie has at least done that, so very
brilliant.
Good.
And we know he exists now, because
I know it's not a figment of my imagination.
He's immortalized in the book cover. Yeah, just beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Blake says Alfie has left the studio.
Yeah.
So when you think of the modern, what gives you hope?
Well, again, weirdly, and this is going to sound very, very contradictory, but it's young people. This is the great thing about being a teacher, is, you meet young people, and yes, they may have they may be stuck on their screens. But one of the reasons I want them to get away from the screens is because they're so brilliant. They come up with amazing ideas, and they see the world with such clarity sometimes. As the adult, you're in the room, you sometimes just see the structure and the status quo, and they just come in and cut straight through that. Yeah. So a lot of my friends are younger than me. Not all of them, but a lot of them are younger than me, because they give me an honest reflection, and they can say things that other people can't. So, I was never Facebook friends with my students while I was a teacher. But subsequently, having left, I'm now friends with a couple, and they amaze me. I've got one of my students who's just started her PhD in poetry. I knew her when she was an A-level student. She's doing her PhD in poetry. She's just amazing. She's got 3 collections of poetry out, and she's just astonishing. I've got, so many brilliant students. One who's kind of gone on to work in TV, and you're like, yes, I understand that. I saw you, and you were brilliant, and you were wonderful. And it's great. Young people should always give us hope.
It's funny, Ricky says, it's mildly amusing that we're talking of getting away from screens as we all share this communication forum on our screens.
Yeah.
It's now, but Pat actually says something really interesting. She's watching it on her scrying stone, and she's surprised to discover that this actually goes out on screens. Well done, Pat. Well done. I'm watching it on my scrying stones. It comes in screens.
This is why Alfie is an interesting cat. This is why he's the cat of the day, because if I get stuck on my screen, or like if I'm sitting playing on a game, or if I'm kind of, doom scrolling through the news, Alfie will come and basically shout in my face. He will make that noise, but about here, and he will pull me out of what's going on the screen.
Wow.
He also does the same in Ritual, which is kind of often a bit messy, particularly if you've got fire. But I remember one Lunacer ceremony, I called on Lou to be present, and Alfie literally trotted into the room, walked into the middle of the circle, and rolled onto his back, showed his belly. And he was and it was like, what are you doing? I was in a sacred moment. And it was like, no, the belly is here. You must stroke the belly now. So he disrupts.
You called me.
Yeah, he was like, but I am the
was
god.
Was he embodying Lou?
Yeah. But it's like he disrupts me if I go off into other worlds as such. Alfie doesn't like that. Alfie wants you here.
He needs to be present. Interesting. Mary Helen says, very true, but I know no OBOD members where I live. And so I really enjoy these virtual connections. And it's not about criticizing the screen. These are really, really,
yes.
It's a bit like, it's about being able to use these platforms and this media in a really, really healthy way so that it is useful to you rather than you being used by it and being controlled by it.
And again, this is going back to young people. This is something that I think is so awful. Can you imagine being a teenager now with all of that pressure coming? I mean, when I was at school, if I was bullied, I could go home. And it was clear until the next day. They bring it home with them. It's in their hands, it's in their pocket, and they can't escape it. And I think that's terrible. It's also because somehow there's that inability to turn the phone off. It's like if there's a lot of nasty stuff going on in it, you can switch it off, but somehow the power of it, I think because you're looking for the one nice thing that someone's going to say that's going to make it worthwhile, because it's that external focus. I don't know the phrase, but it's that external locus of approval or whatever.
Of evaluation. Yeah,
that's it. So they don't feel good inside. So they're waiting for somebody outside to say something nice to them, and they're not saying it. Yeah. Yeah,
that's really, really sad. So Poppy says, Ricky, the screen is not bad. We just get obsessed with things on it and we forget our communication with others. Absolutely. And Ferdy is scrying stone, Pat? How modern. In my day, we had a bowl of water and a few drops of ink. This is meant to be a serious conversation, Ferdy.
People are going to go back now, aren't they? Well, really, in my day, we just used a puddle.
Well, Pat, as ever, is well able to answer. She says, high five, Ferdiad. Though my fave was tyromancy, divination by means of cheese. Oh, yes.
Speaking of someone who's lactose intolerant and vegan, anytime I scry with cheese, it's always a very bad day.
Freddie says, as with so many things, the poison is in the dosage. So, I mean,
yeah. How appropriate.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our conversation, and it's just been brilliant.
It's been lovely to chat to you.
Pat has put up some witchy ways, backyardbanshee.com, divination, tyromancy. So actually, and it's witchy ways. It's WITCHY and then Whey, WHEYS.
Love it.
Robert says, all cheese ever told me was that I'm going to get a bellyache. Good warning. And then
dreams.
Andrew told us his favorite holiday.
Oh no, I haven't. I don't think I have.
Okay, because just somebody had to hop out for a while. They just wondered had I asked it. So anyway, what has been your favorite holiday?
Samhain. Oh, Samhain is amazing. Love Samhain. I'm very much an autumn person, so my autumn decorations go up at Lunacer. Doesn't matter if it's 45 degrees outside; those decorations are going up. So from Lunacer is very special because it marks that wonderful start of the year for me. I love autumn, so yeah, Lunacer, but Samhain, and I've taken to doing it as a 3-day now.
Yeah,
because I love Halloween. And what I was finding was there was a pull between Halloween and Samhain, and you couldn't really do both. on the same day, because one minute you're all kind of somber and thinking of the ancestors, and the next minute you're like sharing candy and all that sort of stuff. So I do, I kind of have the days either side of Halloween as Samhain days, and the one in the middle as a Halloween. Yeah.
Because for all of those things happen in Ireland, you know, the mischief, the making, the ancestral stuff, and ours lasts for a whole month. Samhain is the month of November.
Yes, of course. Well, that's my birthday. I was born on bonfire night.
How are you?
Yes. So although I'm very watery, I should potentially be quite fiery because of that. But yeah, so I was born on bonfire night. So and my dad's Halloween. Interesting. My dad was born on Samhain, and my mum was born on Imbolc, which I was, and of course they didn't know because they weren't pagans. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird, like that. So I do like Imbolc because it's. I always kind of tie that into my mum, so it's the reawakening of spring, and so I celebrate a lot of that through my mother. So yeah, but the absolute favourite has to be Samhain. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah, and most people, it's Samhain. They might prefer a different season, but somehow I like my favourite is the one I'm in.
Right. Okay.
You know,
I struggle with spring. I don't know why. The one I really struggle with is Beltane. I don't know. I find Beltane very difficult. I think it's the growth. I think it's because everything suddenly is rocket charged, and I find that quite tough. Being a person who naturally likes falling leaves, you're like, oh no, there's too much green. So Beltane I struggle with, and spring generally I struggle with. But yeah, it's I want to get to that. I aspire to like the one I'm in. I think that's a really healthy way forward.
I mean, I love I love Imbolc, just is that the beginning of the first shoots, and then we just did our I just love the ritual we do for planting seeds. Just always love it. And then I love Bealtaine. Oh my God. And I notice I have a big garden, and every time I turn my back, something has exploded behind me. And then wild. And if I leave it for a week, then how do we walk? And then it rains. It can't go through the garden because we get soaked with the high cow parsley or whatever. So I like each one, and just it's just lovely. So
the way I came to terms with Beltane in the end was through poetry. I wrote a poem about Beltane where it was like a series of crimes that were being committed. I think is probably the best. It was a series of kind of like violent acts that weren't. So it was like the bluebells were like people with hoodies standing on street corners, and and the rape in the fields. They all see rape. They were all in high vis jackets like they were at a rave. So it was very loud and very kind of So it was. I think there was a line about a crime is being committed, and it's that things are going to get wild. And that was how I came to terms with Beltane, was by going, right, what is it you don't like? Why are you seeing it this way, and turning that into a poem? Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I love the wildness of it. I just love everything is just green.
Absolutely.
Anyway, it's been an absolute joy talking to you, Andrew. And there's been a great reaction to our chat. So
yes, thank you so much for everyone for contributing. I don't see those, but I will read those afterwards.
Brilliant. So Philippa says it's been such fun this evening. Thank you both. So I'll let you say goodbye, and then I'll send you backstage, and then we'll chat. We'll look at the comments then.
Brilliant.
So I'll let you say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So again, thank you for joining us for this lovely chat this evening. It's just lovely to see your comments. Ferdy had a very deeply joyful evening of laughter and profound thought, and it's that combination that we can I suppose welcome and enjoy all moods, and lots of lightness and lots of gravitas as well. So thank you all as ever for joining me for these fireside chats. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you next week for another fireside chat. So enjoy the rest of your morning, day, afternoon, evening, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. Until we meet again, slán go fóill.